In this final video, I'm going to be going through a very brief workflow within ZBrush. And this workflow I'm going to be going through is so that you can see how many steps I'm having to take in order to get this process done. And the basic process that I'll be going through is to get a 3D model into ZBrush, B, to subdivide it and do some sculpting on it, and C, produce the maps like a displacement map and normal map so that I can render it in another application. They're really the primary steps I'm going to go through. What I want you to get from this video is to look at how many steps I'm having to take to do it, how many options I'm having to go through to get there, how long it takes me to produce the maps. In other words, am I waiting 10 minutes? Am I waiting half an hour? Is it doing it in seconds? That's the kind of things that I want you to kind of look at in this video when we're making comparison to other methods for other applications. So I'm going to start right off by bringing a 3D mesh into ZBrush that's already pre-made. So I'm going to go to the tool, import. I'm going to select the NIX human and male average, drag it on the screen and press the T key, which makes it editable. I'm going to be assuming in this particular scenario that I'm going to rig this model. It's got all of the topology available to it and it's got UVs for it already. I am going to store a morph target, which is going to basically keep a snapshot of exactly the way this mesh is right now. So any alterations that I make later on, they can be restored back to where it is right now before I produce any maps. That's the procedure. So I'm going to go down to where it says morph target and click on store morph target. That's all I have to do for the moment. I'm going to subdivide this holding the shift and D key several times so that I've got enough geometry to start doing sculpting on. My tool is found in the subtools, and I can actually import other tools in here to make up armor and stuff like that. For this particular purpose, I'm going to just leave it as it is, and I'm going to turn on symmetry with the X key. Okay, that's just use the clay build up tool for this, and I'm just going to build up a little bit of volume just here and there. I'm using the shift key to smooth. I'm not going to do anything particularly special in this video. I just want to take you through a process so you can see whether you like this kind of workflow for yourself. I don't like this particular material. I'm going to go for the matte cat grey. I find it gives me a more accurate idea of how much mass I'm adding to it. Okay, I'm really going in there rough with this, by the way. I'm not really doing anything special here at all. I'm just making a few changes here and there to the mesh just to go through this process. Just turned off the symmetry with the X key. And that's just create some irregular abdominals. Add a little bit of the costal cartilage that you would normally see around here, the thoracic arch as they call it. That's a little bit of latissimus dorsi in there. Another way to add muscles and stuff is to, obviously you could use your masking. You can go in there with a mask. I'm just holding down the control key at this point. Just creating this. The geometry isn't that high at this stage actually. I would normally have it a little bit higher than this. Okay, I'm using the masking feature there. Shift key to smooth it over a little bit and then clearing the mask. External oblique. The anterior portion. Let's just okay, you get the idea. Okay, so we've just done a little bit of sculpting on there, nothing really major at all. Working more asymmetrical now. That'll do for this purpose. Okay, so we've gone for the stage. Just say we've gone through this and we've done our sculpting of what we want. How do we produce the maps? Okay, how do we produce the maps? Well, the first thing is I want to produce a displacement map. There's two ways that we can go about it. We can go down to the displacement map area here, where it says displacement map. And in your UV map area here, you can choose the size of the map that you want. I'm going to say go for a 4K map. You can put it right up to 8K. What I'm going to do is I'm going to produce something in between, like 6096. I'm going to go for that. I'm going to go down my sub D level down to the lowest, shift and D key, like that. And if I want to look at my UVs right now, I can just press the morph UV and there it goes. It will show me my UVs. I can turn on the wireframe to see them as well. And what I want to do is I want to generate a displacement map, just a standard 16-bit displacement map. So I'm going to turn on adaptive. I'm going to flip it on the V. This is something that you often would have to do. And I want to restore my mesh back to the original mesh the way it looked as its cage form. So this is when I'll go back into my morph target and click on switch. You'll notice that it turns back to the original mesh the way it looked when I brought it in. This is so that when I generate a displacement map, it knows what to compare it against, one mesh to the sculpted mesh, and then it produces it. So let's just go and do this right now. I'm just going to click on create displacement map. And it's going to go for that process and it's going to create a 6K displacement map. And that's exactly what it's done there. It's created a 6K displacement map from the geometry that I've just sculpted. Obviously, the more detail you go through, the more longer it's going to take to create the displacement map. I'm going to just click on this and just turn it off. We don't need it on. And that's really the procedure of creating a displacement map. It is as simple as that. We can create a more advanced displacement map known as a 32-bit displacement map. In fact, we can create all of our maps by like a plugin. And if I just go to the top here, my plugins, we've got multi-map exporter, and I'm just going to see this little radio button here. I'm going to click on this and it will automatically dock it over to the side here, and then I can expand this and work from the side. So the multi-map exporter, what I can do is I can export displacement, vector, normal, the color and painted data, that's from Polygon poly painting, ambient occlusion, cavity, and I can even export the mesh in one button hit. For this, I'm going to create displacement and normal map at the same time. We're creating a 6K map in this particular case, and I think that's all we really need to do. The only other thing is that we've actually got options for these different things that we've got selected here. So for displacement map in this particular case, I want to go for a 32-bit. So this is where I would set it to 32-bit if that's what I wanted to do. It's on there. 32-bit EXR format. This is, I've previously used this before, so it's already set up, and that's pretty much it that you would have to do for that. And same thing for the normal map. It's got its own options there as well. So let's close that. Normal map. See, tangent space, adaptive. We can smooth the normals. Generally, this is the way I would leave it. The obvious difference with this is that we can also there's a tick box function here. Just want to see if I can cast my eyes over it. Export mesh, so we can export it in one here. And also there's this switch MT, switch morph target, and basically it just saves you having to go down to here where the morph target is and switch it. That is where it was when we sculpted it. I don't want to have to switch it from there. I'm going to let it do it here. So I'm going to click on switch. It's automatically going to switch it back to the original morph target that was stored. So you can export all your maps and your mesh in one hit by doing it here. After this, if you've got a frequently used setup that you want to use, you can save your presets. And finally, we just want to click on the create all maps. I click on create all maps. It's going to open a folder. I'm going to create a brand new folder to put it into. And we've got other options for naming conventions and stuff like that. I'm going to just save this and we'll see how it gets on. So it's creating a displacement map right now. We'll just let it go for this process. It's writing the open EXR format for a 32-bit displacement. It's exporting the mesh. And now it's creating the normal map, and it's done. So it completed that process in 1 minute 15 seconds to create a displacement map and a normal map at a 6K. And the subdivision level that it was working on, let's just check this, at its highest level. In this particular case it was 564,992 polygons. What I'm going to do is I'm going to subdivide this to a more extreme level. So 9 million polygons, 36 million polygons we're down to now. And I'm looking at the top there, at the top left, you can see it's 36.159 million quad polygons. Now that I've done that, I'm just going to show you for comparison how quick it can generate these maps. So again, I'm going to go down to the lowest sub D level. I'm going to do exactly the same thing, apart from we're working with a displacement map of 6K at working at 36 million polygons. Another thing to mention here I didn't before is that in the normal map options here, I've just opened here, you can choose what sub D level you want normal map to be generated from. And the reason why you would want to choose this is because your high frequency details like skin pores primarily is what you want to capture in the normal map if you're using a displacement map at the same time in your rendering application, so that you're just dealing with two separate types here. The displacement is going to work on the volume and the normal map is going to be working on your high frequency details. So in this particular case I would choose to make a normal map very close to the high end. So you can see here I've got 10 subdivisional levels, so 10, 9, 8, 7, about there. If I created skin pores, that is exactly what I would do. for the purpose of this, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to go to the higher sub-D level, so it actually has got something to put into a normal map. And I'm creating a quite extreme scenario with this, but that's the idea of testing, eh? I'm going to go in there. I'm going to go to my layers. I'm going to create a brand new layer. You can see it's done that very, very quickly. We're working with 36 million polygons. I'm going to use a standard brush, color spray. I'm going to select this alpha. Take the intensity down a little bit. Okay, and I'm going to just put some skin details on there. He looks like he's got a pretty rough skin. I'm also going to indent as well, holding the Alt key. It's got something to work with now. You can see here at 36 million polygons we're able to get some quite extreme details in there. That's go for a drag rectangle, and we just sort of like add some creases across his face. You can see here at 36 million polygons we're starting to get a little bit of delay, very slight delay and lag. We're using this alpha, but it's certainly not affecting anything else, especially when you're actually sculpting like with this freehand. It's smooth. It's absolutely no delays whatsoever in that, which is quite essential if you're going to go in close and start to add details. Unlike the lips, you want precision, and this is where I feel that ZBrush has got an advantage over other sculpting applications that I've tried. I don't feel that level of precision with the strokes. In ZBrush you definitely got that there. Let's just select a different alpha. You see there's absolutely no delay. I'm working on 36 million polygons right now. Which is crazy, you think about it. Okay, we've got a bit of detail to this guy. I'm going to go down to the lowest sub-D level, and we will generate the maps. I'm going to pause the video while it's doing this, and I'll come back when it's got the results as to how long it took. So I'm going to click create all maps. I'm going to just save it over the originals, and off we go. So returning back, 42 minutes 37 seconds, and that is to generate two maps, displacement map and a normal map, from a 36 million polygon subdivided mesh at 6K per map. For obvious reasons I can't do a direct comparison with say for instance 3D Coat, because I'm not sure how you would go about subdividing your model to 36 million polygons and the process in order to create a displacement and normal map. But if I do find out this, or when I do find out this, I will actually put the information on the video alongside it. So that concludes the video in a general tour around ZBrush, how to do the following things that I've already done, including bringing in a pre-built imported mesh and how to generate your own mesh. We talked about mesh preparation and to subdividing it up and down the levels and working with layers. We've also looked at making a base mesh within the ZBrush itself. Masking, hiding, showing mesh parts. Briefly touched on that. Introduction to basic and often used brushes. That includes a standard, the inflate, the clay, polish, pinch, move, and how to set its size, intensity and fall off. Then we looked into the introduction to what makes up a brush itself and how you can modify the basics, including the alphas and the stroke types. We looked at sculpting a mesh with the options such as Dynamesh, and then we moved on to using the auto retopology. And then finally I've done a brief comparison between how the brush strokes feel between ZBrush and 3D Coat, and that was really where we left off from this. And finally we just went through a basic workflow in this video of how to bring a model in, sculpt it and produce a very high level displacement and normal map. So with these things done, I hope it helps you in your decision choices as to which sculpting application that you're going to go for, or which one you're going to spend more time in to evaluate. So with that said, thanks for watching and bye for now.